Hello, in today's video we're going to take a look at the servicing and restoration on a late 1970s Fender Musicmaster. The Musicmaster was a bass amp, fairly low watts, between 10 and 12 watts, provided by two 6v6 output tubes in the power section. This version of the amp has no rectifier tube. I think earlier versions did have a rectifier tube, but this is solid state rectification. There's a single 12A X7 in the preamp. This originally would have had a smaller speaker, but now someone has actually replaced the speaker with a 15-inch speaker, which we are going to try to revert back to the original size speaker. The reason being, this it sounds pretty good, and I'm also going to take a look at the circuit because I think we're losing a lot of volume and punch, and also a lot of highs that should be present from an amp with two 6v6s that just don't seem to be there really. So we're going to go in and see what kind of changes have been done. Obviously this thing has been changed around and modded and serviced in the past, like I said, with the addition of the 15-inch speaker. The problem with the speaker being changed to a 15-inch is this, and I'll show you if you take the front panel off of this thing, and you'll see why I have an inclination to really restore it. Because whoever did this did not do a really fantastic job. Essentially what they did was, I don't know if they let loose their army of pet rats to let them just chew out the whole larger, or if they took a chisel to this, or what they did, but somebody didn't have a saw is what it looks like to me, and they tried to do this. I don't know, again, if they used a chisel or an ice pick or army of rats. Maybe they let their children chew on it or something, who knows, but at any rate, we've ended up with this disaster. It's you know, this material is a chipboard material, not chipboard, but it's actually a fiber, well, it is a chipboard actually material, and it's basically just a bunch of wood chips all glued together and packed anyway, so it's not like it's real plywood. Real plywood is actually consistent, if you don't know this already, real plywood is consistent of actual plies of actual wood that are then glued together. This stuff is like all the leftover bits from a sawmill off the floor, swept up into a big pile, and then added with a bunch of other materials and glues and so forth, and then pressed into a sheet and allowed to dry. And this is what we've got here, and I think the whole cabinet is actually made from this material, as are a lot of the 70s Fenders, and other amplifier manufacturers as well are made from that same sort of material, which it really doesn't conduct tone very well because of all the glues and everything used, and the fact that there's no there's no solid piece of wood there for the sound to actually travel and resonate through. This is about the worst kind of tone wood you can possibly get. It's really not the greatest thing to begin with, and the fact that it's been done in this manner is just a complete turn off to me, and which has prompted me to want to take this thing and revert it back to the original size speaker. What I'm probably going to have to do here, and we'll follow the whole design of the restore as we kind of go along. I'll just make it up as we go along, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of our different approaches and see where we end up going with this. But I think what I'm going to end up having to do is come in here with a saw and cut this out very carefully around, because the baffle is actually it's actually set into the side wood and the bottom, the wood piece of wood that makes up the bottom. I think there's actually a channel that's routed out that all fit together in one piece from the factory and was glued together. So in order to get that out, I'm probably going to have to cut it, and then I may even have to chisel the remainder out. But there's really no way to get a new piece to fit exactly anyway without taking the entire rest of the cabinet apart, and that's not really feasible. So what we're going to have to do is come up with some creative solutions to probably get a new piece of nice birch plywood or something of that nature to go in here. What I might end up doing is leaving a couple of tabs, maybe one on this side, one on the other side, one on the bottom. We'll leave some, in other words, we'll leave a strip of material to which we can adhere a new baffle right into the back of it, and then we'll cut a new speaker hole and make it work that way, perhaps. So anyway, these are the ideas I have off the bat. But just to listen to the tone, and you'll see what I mean. It sounds good. It's got a great tone. It's just very low volume, and it seems to be missing some of the highs. This is with the tone all the way cranked and the volume all the way cranked. To pick up on the fact of its low volume, I'm sure, because you know, this camera has some compression on it, and it's, you know, I'm sure it's going to be tough to kind of discern on video how low the volume is, but at least you'll get a chance to hear the tone. Tone overall, you know, slap a microphone in front of it and you might not notice a difference on a recording, and for a bedroom amp maybe it would be good for some people, but I know for a fact there's more power in this thing than that, and we're going to try to see what the deal is, see what's been modified, and see if we can't coax all that power back out of it. So stay tuned if that's something that you would like to keep up with. Stay tuned and we'll get into that. Okay, first things first, let's disassemble this thing. We'll remove this baffle and just set it aside. I've got a couple screws on top here to get the chassis out, and we may as well go ahead and remove this lower panel also, because we're going to have that removed whenever we put our new baffle in, probably. I don't know if we'll be able to get it in from the front or the side. I think the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning toward leaving some tabs from the old baffle board on the front to have something to which to glue our new baffle board. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get the new baffle board past those or not. Probably we'll have to kind of set it in at an angle through the back here, I would imagine. It's amazing they even got this 15-inch speaker in here to begin with. There's not very much clearance. It does fit, but there's, you know, probably couple millimeters of clearance maybe on either side, and it's butting up right against the output transformer up on the top. It had to go underneath the output transformer, and it just barely made that as well. So it's kind of a small miracle they were able to get it in there. I guess I have to applaud them for that. But what they've kind of done to the cabinet in the process is just not a good thing. Feeling back here after having the amp on all that time, I can feel the power transformer is a little bit warm. It's not hot, but it's a little warm. That might be from just its proximity to this one power tube beside it, and it could also be that it's just working a bit hard for as small as it is. We'll actually take a look at the size of the power transformer here in a bit once we get the chassis all out. But let's unhook the speaker and pull this chassis out. And there's one more screw holding for the retainer on the power cord. And we may as well pull these out as well so we don't break them. It won't hurt to do that. And yeah, that is a 12AX7 7025, and that's GE made on that tube. Output tubes are JJ's. Somebody wrote 1977 on the back of this chassis. You'll see what I mean whenever we get it out, but I don't know if that's if they were just trying to record the date because they knew they were recording the original speaker. You have to excuse my dog. Sometimes he goes a little bit nuts if the mailman is outside. Buddy, calm down. Just the mailman. Yeah, let's see here. There's 8/28, so 28th week of 1978 on that. Well, my gosh, these are the original power caps right there. Somebody has definitely been in here. There's a component right here that looks like a cap that's going to nothing. That is a cap, and it looks like it's blown its top. Alright, that's interesting. So we've got a cap that's blown its top. We've got something else here. I'm not sure what that is or was, but somebody has twisted a couple of caps together here to get a value, and they've clipped something out. It looks like maybe they clipped out that cap, but they didn't even remove it. Okay, a little strange. Coming in here is the power, and then we have our death cap still in place. So they came in here and messed with this over here, and it looks like they replaced this coupling cap but didn't touch the death cap. And it's still a 2-prong cord on this thing. I might go ahead and put a 3-prong on it for good measure. And there is a, wait a minute. You know, here is a good example of why you shouldn't necessarily always trust every Tom, Dick, and Harry who has serviced an amplifier, you know, to do this sort of thing. Look at this. I just pulled it. You watch me pull this chassis out of here. Look at this. There's a screw inside there. That's like a sheet metal screw inside the amp. Just down in there dangling. Look, right against the power. That's insane. Look at this. Just loose inside the chassis. Look at that. No wonder I was hearing some rattling earlier. But look at that. Just loose inside this chassis. I mean, if this had come over to like right there and shorted that to ground, big fireworks. So yeah, that's interesting. Man, oh man. So not only did they botch the cabinet that badly, but they damn near botched the amp about as badly as you can botch one. I mean, that's a new one on me, and you've witnessed it there kind of live. So, wow, I'm still kind of in shock. Looking over the rest of this amp though, let's see, this must be a little choke of some kind, but yeah, I mean, with these original caps in here, I'm sure we'll definitely replace these caps. May as well. Measure everything else. There's not much to it. See if anything has been changed from factory besides what we already know. And we'll also look at the schematic. There's something missing right here. Oh, that's that cap that they replaced. But look at this. they left this much of that old leg in there, and then I don't know if you can see this or not, hopefully you can. They left this much of this old leg in here, and then this cap that they replaced it with, look at how much is there. And then the soldering job leaves definitely something to be desired. Just a big blob of solder barely clinging on. This leg is soldered onto the old leg that they just left in place, but it's not even wrapped around it. It's just butted up against it. And then there's a blob of solder over here on the chassis, loose. All right, so that's out now. Here's another big blob of solder. All right, oops, right there. So yeah, whoever did this was just a total hack, pretty much. You know, I don't criticize other techs very often or anything, and I just don't like to get into all that crap. But you know, that's kind of just, I mean, leaving the screw in there, I don't understand that, and the blobs of solder is pretty unexcusable. And why they didn't just clip this before they put it in there properly, why, you know, I have no clue. They left the death cap. They were in here anyway. They may as well have removed that and put a 3-prong on it. I mean, that's somewhat excusable. I can understand it if they wanted to just, you know, keep it as original, like it came from the factory. In that regard, excusable, but at the same time, it's just kind of a little bit senseless. Got let's see, what value is this? This is a 70 microfarad cap. Doesn't look like it's in physically bad condition, neither one of these. They would probably still be okay, but knowing the history of these old Mallory paper caps like this, I'm going to replace them because they're almost never good. And if they're good now, they probably wouldn't be for a long time, so I might as well replace both of those. I'm going to shorten this leg. I'll probably see what value this is supposed to be because they've got these twisted together to make up a value. See, they're both 103s. So there's some small value there, and yeah, so that's probably can stand to be replaced. I don't see anything really burnt, but that is not right for sure. And then there's blobs of solder all down there. So yeah, this thing is a bit of a mess. We're gonna have to go in here and definitely service this amp pretty thoroughly. The amp portion, we'll set that aside for the moment, though. That's just part of the job that we're gonna try to accomplish on this thing. The biggest part of this restoration is going to be probably the baffle. That's going to be the most work. I'll have to get in here with a jigsaw or something and cut out most of this baffle while leaving some tabs in place, you know, to which we can bolt probably and also glue the new baffle. So we'll go ahead and remove this back panel, remove the speaker, and start cutting on the baffle. So stick around for that. Okay, with the speaker out of this thing, we can finally begin to see what we've gotten ourselves into, and you get a little closer look here at the mess the army of rats left behind. And again, you know, that is a chipboard material. You can see all the chips there, and it's just, I mean, just about the lowest possible thing that could be used for a viable amplifier speaker baffle, besides maybe masonite or something. Which I have seen on some lower end amps, but this is going to be an improvement anyway. I mean, to be quite honest, this is not a good material for speaker baffle. Fender got away with it for a long time on the lower end stuff, and a lot of other amp manufacturers did as well. But it is not an ideal material, and just about anything we can put in here is going to be better than this. So we're going to come in here with some actual plywood and make a better speaker baffle out of this with the right size speaker hole. We can see here that indeed this is inset into the sides and the bottom, I believe, with routes. So what we're going to do, here's the kind of the tenuous plan. I'm going to come in here with a jigsaw and I'm going to cut out, or maybe even the circular saw if I can fit it here. I'll come in here with the saw and cut maybe and leave about this much perhaps, and probably cut around and just leave these this Velcro in place and leave a tab here on this side. Come over here and leave a tab here on this side. Get rid of most of this and then leave tabs down here and down here as well, and maybe even try to leave a tab down here on the bottom to which we can mount our new baffle. That's the tenuous idea at the moment, and that's kind of what I'm going to go on as a plan. That could change as we go forward, just depending on what kind of problems we run into, but that's the plan at the moment. You can see there that's the original tube chart. Let's see what kind of information it tells us. Looks like it's kind of frayed up on the edges. But that's the original tube chart. You know, again, this is not going to be, you know, original. I mean, this isn't a highly collectible amp really anyway for Fender, especially being from the late 70s, a Silverface. And the Musicmaster, you know, again, it's not very collectible, but this is going to be a better amp really by the time I'm done with this. It's going to be a better amp than it would be completely stock. It's probably going to sound better because I'm going to make it sound better, and it's going to have a better baffle material, and the baffle material should make the amp sound better as well. So, and we may use the opportunity to pick out a really nice speaker for this thing also. So every opportunity here to upgrade this thing from stock and to make a negative into a positive. So stick around further and as we move forward. Okay, here we have the new plywood baffle board fitted in. The old baffle board, what was left of it, that is, I actually ended up getting out not with a saw, but with a just a hammer, just demolition style, with a hammer and a chisel around the edges. And actually my chisel, in hindsight, I shouldn't have used it because there are some staples in here that stick out. It was actually stapled from the outside in, so there's staples all along there, and it kind of eat at my chisel a little bit. So if you do use a chisel to get all these little bits out, then just go very carefully and slowly, which is what I eventually started doing. So, but this is the way I'm going to leave it. Everything's pretty much flush. So our new baffle will just kind of sit on top of this area, and we're going to use some pieces of wood on the inside here, some strips all the way down, probably on the bottom as well, and on this side also, to hold everything in. We will probably screw those pieces in as well as glue them, and then we'll have something to butt our baffle up against that will hold it there. So yeah, if you're doing this yourself, that's what you'll want to do. I just basically, and you can kind of see the staples still in here. I'm going to leave those in. There's no sense in trying to pull them out because I'm probably just going to mess up the outside of the cab by doing that. So I just bent them over, and they're kind of out of the way. So I don't think there'll ever be any kind of problem. If you're doing one of these yourself, if you just decided, hey, I think I'd like a real baffle board in my Musicmaster, the measurements for the baffle, at least on this one, I'm sure they're consistent throughout the life of the Musicmaster, are 15 3/8 by 16.5 inches. So yeah, there's our new start of our new baffle. We'll get a speaker hole in it, spray paint it black, probably on both sides, and we'll be on our way. Okay, here's the schematic for this Fender Musicmaster amp, and here are some changes that we are gonna make with this thing. First of all, we're gonna, on the inputs, there are two inputs, but they are the exact same on the input resistor, so we're gonna change one of those to a 47K, probably the main one, and then we'll have
we'll have basically a high and a low gain input. We're going to change this resistor to ground from a 470K to a 1 meg. On the cathode of the first gain stage, we're going to change this bypass cap from a 2 microfarad to a 10 microfarad. Moving along, in the tone stack, we're going to do a couple changes here. We're going to change the volume knob, or volume pot rather, to a 500K. Probably a 500K. I might even go as high as 1 meg on that, but haven't quite decided yet. 500K is probably going to do the trick, though. It's going to squeeze a little more out of this thing, I think. We're going to bypass this volume pot with about a 500 picofarad cap, which should give us more highs through to the next stage. And on this stage, we're actually going to up all of our bypass caps. On this stage, we're going to make it a 25. On the output stage, we're going to up it to a 50. And the idea of doing this is we're going to push, we're going to get as much out of this thing as we can. Hopefully it doesn't go too dark on us. If it goes too dark, then we'll backpedal and maybe change this back to a 25 or something like that. But we want to try to squeeze as much juice out of this amp as we possibly can. And I think changing these values is going to go a long way toward doing that. This is going to give us more highs. We're going to have more punch on the input into this first stage by doing this. So all of these things combined really is designed to get the most out of this amp because it's so anemic on the output. That's kind of the idea that we're shooting for. This is the depth cap. We're going to remove this depth cap. And those are basically the changes that we're going to undergo here as we move forward. This thing, the phase inversion is done with a transformer. So we do have 2 full stages of preamp gain before our 6v6s. We're also going to check, I've looked here, and all 3 of our power rail caps here are 20 microfarads. I'm not sure where that 70 microfarad is coming from, the one that we saw inside the actual amp. But we may reassess that and just make it something more like the schematic that we see here. We may even just redesign this entire power rail if that's what it takes. But this one seems to make a bit more sense. Okay, all the electronics on this thing have been serviced, and as you can see, everything is a lot cleaner than it was. There are a couple things I did not do. I did not change this input resistor, and while I'm thinking about it, yeah, I made a mistake earlier in the video when I said I was going to change this 68K to a 47K. There's really no reason to do that because when you plug into this jack, you're actually lifting off of ground here, and because this one is still grounded, you're actually running these 2 resistors in parallel, effectively having that down to about 33 or 34K, something like that. So yeah, there's really no reason to mess with either one of those. So that was a mistake on my part. This 470 has been changed to a 1 meg, and we can see that tucked down in there. That's that new resistor there. This 2 microfarad was changed to a 10 microfarad, and what I did was essentially I moved this 10 over to this position. So here's the old one, and it was in this position, but I've just moved it over to here. That's a 10, and then I replaced this 10 with a 25. This coupling cap was new, and it was put in by a previous, I say, tech, quote unquote, but it was pretty amateurish in here. This had a lot longer legs than it needed, so that's been cut down. You can probably rewind and look in the video. I've replaced this 70 microfarad with a 20. The reason, this schematic shows 3 20s and nothing even approaching a 70. So I've made them all 20s. They call for 300 volts, but a couple of these, all I had in a 20 was a 500 volts, so we're rolling with it. This one actually worked out best to have this style. This coupling cap was the one that had kind of been botched. It was over here in this position, but I mean, it had really been botched. And if you rewind the video, you'll look and see how it looked like it had blown its top at one point, perhaps, and then had been replaced by a couple that weren't even they weren't even polarized. It wasn't even a polarized cap that they essentially had in there. So I think that was probably the source of a lot of the problem. Had to rework the volume and tone because someone had put in their own sort of custom volume and tone controls. They might have been okay, but just to stick with my original plan, I went ahead and wired them back to stock, and then added the little 500 picofarad cap in there. But everything else is back to stock now on the tone stack. Over here, I've added a brand new 3-prong cord. This was the original grounding point, but I've just used the center lug as a ground. It's going here anyway, and it's, I mean, no big difference there. Here's my hot, and there was just a wire running directly to the switch and nothing else. On the schematic, it says there's some sort of protector here, but that was not existent before. So what I've done is added an inline fuse holder and put a 1 amp fuse in here. I think 1 amp should be okay. I may have to raise that to 1.5 or 2. I'm gonna start with a 1. So that's a lot better. The depth cap, which was in this position, and there's the big blue thing right there, has been removed. You can see all of the junk that was removed from the amp. That whole pile of stuff came out of the amp. There's the old electrolytics. There's this one. Here's the thing that they had. I mean, unbelievable. Actually, most of this stuff came from from those 2 soldering lugs. I mean, there's a couple of extra things in there, but a lot of that came from just those 2 lugs. Unreal. And the fact that there was a screw in there, and I think the screw, I figured out where it was. This was missing a screw, and I think somebody put a sheet metal screw in its place, and it wasn't even tight enough to hold it itself in. So I've replaced that screw, so that's correct. Just a lot of little things like that. I think before I might have said this was a choke as well. That's obviously not the choke. That's the phase inversion transformer. But yeah, overall, just a hell of a lot cleaner. And one thing that makes it clean, to get all the soldering bubbles and the little, because you're going to be left behind with a lot of mess. I mean, as you can see right here, and even all over the table, there's mess and junk, and debris. So what I usually do is just get a little paintbrush like this and just kind of sweep everything out and get all in here, and that's kind of one of the final steps before packing one away and sending it on its way. Just get in here and kind of just basically spick and span and clean it all out, sweep it into a corner or something, and then basically loosen everything up, and then flip the amp upside down and kind of shake it and blow in it and get everything out of there. But yeah, just a lot cleaner amp now. You can see 1978, 28th week there. This pot is original and it's dated 1977. This pot over here was already changed to a 1 meg. I did not have to change it. Someone had already done that. I might have mentioned that before. But there she is. Here's the back of the amp, by the way. The speaker is an 8 ohm load. At first I thought these might have been 4 ohm loads like the Champ, but it says it right on there, 8 ohms. Somebody wrote 1977. There's our serial. T11. On the inside there's a stamp as well. It says Musicmaster. It's probably so the factory knows which chassis they've got on their hands. I think this chassis is the exact same dimensions width-wise as the Champ. So, and one of the things people do with these is they will use the cabinets, the 112 cab, and they'll slap their Champ chassis in a Musicmaster cabinet. So they've got a 112 Champ, but I think what they're really kind of missing is that the Champ it needs a 4 ohm load, and the Musicmaster needs an 8 ohm load. So the speaker for at least the stock speaker for the Musicmaster is not going to be right for the Champ. So, but yeah, there we are. And now let's put everything together. I need to paint the baffle and cut the hole out in it, and maybe we'll fire it up and see what it sounds like here. Okay, we have our baffle here cut out, and it's cut out of 1/2 inch plywood. And what I've done essentially, as you can see, I'm using some stools that I have on hand as some sawhorses. I have here a 12-inch speaker that we can use as a template. Actually, we're going to use this plate, dinner plate, as a template. The reason being because it's about 11 inches across, which is what a 12-inch speaker actually is. It fits down pretty much right, exactly in the hole for a 12-inch speaker, which is what you want. You don't want to cut out a 12-inch hole. If you do that, you won't have room to bolt on any of your bolts. You won't even actually be able to mount the speaker if you make it too large, because the 12-inch designation is actually from the full width of the speaker. Actually, it isn't the full width. It's usually from screw to screw, and that's your 12 inches. This one, yeah, is a little over 12 inches, but on the inside it's about a little less than 11. This plate is also a little less than 11, and it's about what we want. So we're going to use this as a template. And first thing is just kind of eyeball it in the center. I don't think with this amp we have any problems. I think that originally it was centered in the baffle anyway. So what we're going to do essentially is measure from side to side and get it lined up that way. And we're about 2 3/4, a little over 2 3/4 this way. A little over 2 3/4 that way, so that looks about right. That's about 2 inches, and that's about 2.5. So we do need to go that way just a little bit with it. So now we're at 2 1/4 and 2 1/4. So that is about correct. Check this one, double check this one. A little over 2 3/4. And this one's a little over 2 3/4. So what I'm going to do now is just get a pencil, outline it. And another method that you can undertake at this point is to get a piece of string, cut it 6 inches, put your finger in the middle, or paste it to the middle in some way, and then use the string tied to the end of a pencil, and then just go around with a 6-inch radius, or not 6 inches, excuse me, it would be about 5.5 inches to equal your 11. But there is our circle, and that's about in the center once again. So that's where we want to cut out. What we're going to do first is we're going to come out here to about the outside and drill a hole that we can get started with, and then we're going to come back with a jigsaw and cut this thing out. Your beats letting your rats go after it. And I also want to make sure I get inside the sound hole. This whole project is a good example of the benefits of being a bit of a pack rat. I haven't spent a dime so far on any of the materials, including the baffle board material. I found a huge piece of that 3/4 plywood during heavy trash day this last time, and also found a lot of this stuff. I guess somebody was remodeling and they pulled a lot of this stuff. It's like from cabinetry or something, and this stuff will be pretty good too. It's all solid wood. I'm going to use this for the internal bracings for my baffle. So we'll cut some links of this stuff and put them on all 4 sides the 3 sides on the inside of the cabinet. And I think this will serve me well also, and didn't pay a penny for it. So there you go. Okay, in this step we're going to take our little cut pieces of bracing that we've made. We're going to select the sides with the best appearance and put that toward the back and the outside. I've pre-drilled some holes, pilot holes, to get us started. We're just going to use some regular wood screws or sheetrock screws or whatever will be fine. We'll get those started, and we are going to pop some glue on here. And I'm just using regular yellow wood glue because we don't want these ever to come off. If I can get this going. We're never going to take these braces off, so as generous as you want to be with the glue is probably okay. Whenever I'm gluing something, I usually like to go ahead and spread it all out to the edges. And with this wood glue, if you're not experienced with wood glue, this stuff is pretty easy to wash up. Any kind of warm water, and it'll come right off. So I'm just getting all the glue spread, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball put this brace sort of in the center here, and make sure that we're you can see where the old baffle was, and it kind of turns black where it wasn't. So I'm going to just use that as a guide and just put it kind of right along that line. And what we'll do now is we'll come back in and screw these screws in, wipe up the excess glue, and then we'll have one brace done, and we'll repeat that for the bottom and for this other side, and then we'll be ready to put our baffle in. Okay, I finally have the baffle complete. I've got a new 1974 Eminence Alnico speaker installed. I've actually managed to salvage the old Velcro from the old baffle, and I've installed it here. And all that remains is to put the grill on. And we can get the grill on now and see what she looks like. Pretty much looks like a Musicmaster Silverface should look. Check out the back and see there's the Alnico speaker that's been installed. And as promised, I've actually left this unpainted so you can see that it was actually... Okay, we're all through with the servicing of this Musicmaster. I have a new 1/2-inch plywood baffle installed. I have the 1974 Alnico Eminence speaker installed, and this one has an aluminum cone. Not sure if you, I'm sure you can see that through the grill. And did the modifications that we saw a bit earlier in the video, and as you'll
you're going to be able to see here, all the highs have come out. It's pretty much come to life. It's a lot louder now. With the volume on only about 6. The tone is on about 3. Of course, this is going to be pretty trebly anyway because we're going through a P90 on the bridge position. This guitar, by the way, is a 1987 Gibson. That is a 1979 Fender Musicmaster with a brand new speaker and a brand new baffle board.